There we go. Hola, mi gente. Bienvenidos. Extra connections. Yo soy su presentador, James Lott Jr. That's right. I'll be alegre tonight because I have 4 people that I like a lot. L-O-T-T. That's right, kids. We're going to have a fun show tonight. It's the Latinx edition of Extra Connections. You're like, what the F did he just say? Just don't worry about it. It'll be a bilingual night tonight. Let's do that. So I have 4 people who are doing things out there, and we're going to talk about being Latino and what does it mean in their work, how they move through life, and all that good stuff. So thanks for joining us. As you're coming in, I'm going to introduce them. The chat room is up. So if you have anything you want to say in English or Spanish, say it. I have no problem with that. So come on in. The water's fine. Let me introduce who I have with me. So first, ladies first, it is her debut on a JLJ Media production. She is the host of Cafe con Leslie. That's right, girl. And she is a wrestling aficionado. Well, actually, 3 of them are wrestling aficionados on here, but she's one of the ladies in the biz. My newer friend, Leslie Colon. Hello, Leslie.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien. I'm so happy you're here.
Me too. I am so excited. I feel special.
You are special. That's right. Why you're here. I don't ask just anybody to be on my show. So that's how that works.
I finally made the list.
You hit it. But one
nice.
Day we're going to do one just us 2 together. We're going to work on that. So that's going to be something we're going to do. To my, I don't know what, left or right or whatever. He tonight he's showing us that he is very guapo this evening. Yes, he is. He is an engineer, a host, a teacher. He's pointing himself to. Look at both of them. Oh my goodness!
Right here.
Oh my God, the guys, of course.
You already introduced Leslie already. I don't know why you're telling her twice.
Yes, all the gentlemen on my show are very handsome tonight. Yes, but the first one, again, engineer, host, teacher. He's into jiu-jitsu and karate. He makes like barbells out of rocks or whatever at home during COVID. And he's into wrestling. My friend, Josh Alonzo. Hello, Josh.
Buenas tardes, señoras y señores. ¿Cómo están hoy en este día bonita? Let me take out these glasses. I'm kind of feel like a douchebag now. I gotta take these off. How's everyone doing tonight? Just super excited to be back. This is really awesome. Thank you, James, for inviting me back. Can't wait.
We have another music show to do. We got to set that up. We got another music show to do. So
yep.
We got to do that. And actually, Kirsten Marie already says, "Hola, Leslie. Welcome to JLJ Media." She already says,
"Oh, hi."
Okay, the next guy, I like him a lot too. He's also a wrestling aficionado too. He does hosting and he's a wrestling and sports fan. Apparently he has like the knowledge of like, I don't know, it's like just major knowledge. You can ask him anything and he can tell you what's going on, when it happened, and how it happened. My friend George Hermoza. Hello, George.
Hello there. Oh, I mean, hola, hold on. ¿Cómo estás hoy día en martes?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I have to wait for Google Translate to I have a really slow internet, so I was waiting for the Google Translate to show up.
I love that. I do. He's wearing a Dodger jersey. So he's wearing his sports. I only know the Dodgers win when CPK gives me a free pizza. That's their big thing. I don't follow baseball. I don't know what the fuck's going on there. But every time they win, I get a free pizza. So I always know when they win. They've been winning a lot recently, so I don't know. Okay, and not last but not least, my amigo, my buddy, we do all kinds of stuff together. He's a host, an author, a coach, a voice actor on some of my shows, a recording artist on my network, real estate investor. He's James Lott Jr. Cesar R Espino.
Hola, muy buenas tardes. ¿Cómo están todos? How's everyone doing? So happy to be here, guys.
I'm happy to have you guys here too. So I'm going to do my church announcements first before we get started. This is JLJ Media. This is my online network. This month, I celebrate 1 year in business as an online network. Nice. I can't believe this happened until a year has gone by. Thank you. I'm shocked. I've survived. But I've been doing this online network. I have over 35 shows ranging from Star Wars to soaps to being left-handed and some also Spanish content. So go ahead and check out JLJ Media on any streaming service platform, which is audio. And then on this thing here is a subscribe button. Hit it. That's all I got to say about that. And of course, I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me everywhere online. Okay. Hello, you guys, and welcome to the show. I want to actually ask you one question for everybody to answer to get this out the way. I'm of Puerto Rican descent. So I'm going to ask each of you which of the Latino Hispanic in your background, starting with you, Josh, where's your family from? What is your background?
My family, my background is Guatemala. We are Central American. My parents immigrated to the U.S. around 1979. So they've been here for quite some time now. And then I'm first generation, as long as my sisters as well. So yeah, it's just pretty much just like one of those just like backgrounds and everything, just first generation Guatemalan Americans and just first generation Latinos to be a part of this and just really making a life for ourselves in this great country. So.
We're going to talk about that more in detail, of course. But
yeah,
but aren't there a lot of Guatemalans here in Los Angeles?
There are, but not as much as Mexicanos and Salvadoreños. It's a lot more just those two prominent groups, and then we're just kind of sprinkled in every now and again.
George Hermoza, you're shaking your head. So George, what about you? What is your background?
Like Josh, I'm first generation American, but my entire family is from Peru.
Hey,
so I mean, even though I'm born here, born in LA, like my blood's Peruvian. I'm all about the Peruvian food. I'm all about the Inca Cola. I'm all about I'm all about the lomo saltado. Represent red and white all day. But yeah,
I'm getting hungry already.
Me too. Some lomo saltado. I love that. Leslie Colon.
Yes, I am also first generation, and both my parents are from Oaxaca, Mexico. So I am just so proud to be Mexican American. I'm always talking about my culture. And yeah, being from Oaxaca is also very special. A lot of people aren't really from there. So it's kind of cool to like teach a lot of people where we're from and kind of our own traditions as well.
Good food. I like your yellow mole. I like your red mole. I love Oaxacan food. It is.
And I love guacamole.
That's George for you guys. If you guys have never met him,
you set it up and I just knock it out of the park.
Yeah,
there you go. Right there.
That's how it works.
And Cesar Espino. Espino. I've known you for how long? I messed up your name.
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you?
Well, I guess I feel a little bit left out. I'm not. I wasn't born here. I was actually born in Mexico City. I came here when I was 10. And then, definitely love being here. I love the fact that I'm in this great nation. And so, yeah, born and raised in Mexico City and then came here at the age of 10. My mom is from Michoacan. I don't know my real dad, so don't even know where he's from, but whatever. It's all good. My stepdad, though, he's from Guerrero, Mexico.
Yeah. I met your stepdad. He's very nice.
Yeah.
I met your mom. I met your stepdad, though. I met your mom. But,
yeah, I don't think you have, no. Yeah,
that's very nice. I think he's like younger than I am, or something, or my age, or something, some weird shit like that. So yes, and my family from Ponce, Puerto Rico. So that's and from much of the West Indies. So from Saint Eustatius and down in the Dutch West Indies, they're all from the Caribbean. All the Caribbean stuff. Mother migrated to New York, where a lot of them do over there. They go to New York. She's from Spanish Harlem, 103rd in Lexington, and so that's when I used to go there all the time as a kid, and then. I'm first generation Californian, first generation everything here, me and my siblings, and I grew up with Mexican, Central American, mostly, and went back and forth. And on the East Coast, grew up with Dominicans, Cubans, and then here. So it was very interesting for me to get a wide range of that. Not all Latinos are the same, folks. Don't make that mistake at all.
No, we are not.
No, we are not at all. Not at all. But when I start the question out, just to you guys, what does it mean to be Latino these days in America? Because we know our last administration very fond of Latinos, but I was wondering for you, I'm gonna get to that. But I was wondering for you, at just in general, not even talking about the work range, but just in general, as you walk through life, what does it feel like for you? So I'll start with you, Mr. George Hermoza.
So I don't know if it has a lot to do with me growing up in Los Angeles, but I've always felt very inclusive about everything. Like, I don't know, it just, to me, it wasn't really, I never really felt like I stood out as far as being Latino, because again, I look to my left, I look to my right, it was Latino, Black, white, Asian. Like I always felt like I was in the right city. Now, if I would have maybe grown up in like some other Midwest or Southern city, I think I would have felt a little bit more alienated. But because maybe growing up in LA, I never really felt as if like I was, I don't want to say anything special, but just I was anything unique as far as like being one of a kind. Like I know when I was a kid, there weren't really many Peruvians. So I think that was something that I felt maybe unique. And as I got older, maybe just because I, got out of the enclosed space of being at a school and, going off to college and maybe going into the work world, maybe that's when I kind of encountered a lot more people like me as far as Peruvians go. But for the most part, like growing up, and I don't know, it just, maybe it's weird to say, but I never really felt as if being Latino was anything, special. I just thought I was a human being like anyone else, and I just happened to speak Spanish.
Well, if George, may I ask you a question? Has it been interesting for you guys that Peruvian food has gotten very popular in America over the last
a little bit. I mean, a lot of it's like I told you so. Like I feel like I've been saying this for years, and now all of a sudden you want to ask me, well, what's your favorite Peruvian place? Like, I don't know, like home. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to go somewhere to get bomb Peruvian food. But yeah, like it is a little interesting, especially for all the single men out there. Trust me, you take a girl to a Peruvian restaurant, it's you'll probably be guaranteed another date. That's all I'm going to say about that.
The food is really good. It's really good. I love it. I love the green sauce. I don't know what it is, but I can pour it on everything. Mm-hmm. That green sauce is the bomb. But I know I dated a Peruvian, so I know Peruvian. So Leslie, for you, you talk about you actually incorporating in part of your life, talking about your culture and stuff. Do you guys speak Spanish at home? Is it a big thing? I mean, what was it like for you?
Of course, yeah. I grew up my mom always made sure that I never lost like my culture, knew where I came from. It was really hard for me growing up having to balance both. And I think definitely nowadays my generation's having a hard time like identifying themselves, because sometimes we can say, oh, we're Mexican American, but are you really Mexican enough? Are you really American enough? So that's always been a big question that like I feel like we've had to answer, but we can never answer like the right way, because you can be both. But I definitely always felt like more close to my Mexican culture. I always felt welcomed. I always was proud. I've always been proud. And I've never been one to like want to hide like me speaking Spanish or where I come from. Like even a lot of people like kind of make fun of people from Oaxaca, and I don't know why. So I'm always one to be like very proud to say where I come from. Even though I wasn't born in Mexico, I still feel like I'm very Mexican and I love my culture.
Yeah, have you been to Oaxaca?
Yes, I just started going like 5 years ago, and now it's something that I can't stop doing. Like I haven't been in 2 years, obviously because of this pandemic. Oh no, I just went a couple months ago because my grandmother was sick. But every time I go back, it's like a different world, and it also makes me like feel a little bit more humble, because they don't have much there yet. There's a lot of people who are very happy with very little. So it kind of like makes you realize, why do we complain so much when there's people, in a different country who don't have a lot yet are still living like a very happy life.
That is such a great point. When I go to Puerto Rico, it's just like that. I mean, it's a beautiful island, first of all. I mean, I love going there. I just don't want to leave. But they have things, but like, again, they're not all rich. They don't have all the amenities that we may have on the mainland.
Yeah.
But they're always smiling, having a good time. I mean, like, it's just like, you just can't. And the mangoes are this big. I was like, oh my God, the mangoes are this big. Crazy. So I understand what you mean. It's like we complain a lot here in America about stuff, and I complain about stuff. I was like, during the pandemic, the one thing I missed the most, I was like, I miss being waited on. I miss saying, yes, I'll have more water. Thank you. I miss that. That is a first world problem. That is totally crazy. But I miss someone going, I'll take those dishes from you and wash them myself. Like, thank you. I'm tired of washing. I'm tired. I was like, so that's very first world problem. One of the things problem from my people of it is the whole Afro Latino thing. A lot of people, they want to claim the Afro side, and if you're a little darker, you know about that. and I'm not saying this. I'm going to Josh next anyway. Not just because he's a little darker. I just happen to be coming to you next. Which I say that wasn't not because
it's okay. It's okay.
I say you're a girl or anything. But I want to say to you, Josh, because now for you, a lot of the assumptions for Central Americans is very interesting. They always think of like the fighting. I think when they think of El Salvador and things like that. So for you, what does it mean being Latino and being Guatemalan American?
So same thing like George, when you grow up in LA, it's pretty much just the norm around you. You're surrounded by people that talk like you, you're surrounded by people that look like you, same upbringing and everything. So it's never really a special feeling as, oh, I am Latino. You just feel as an individual, as a group of a part of a bigger norm, but you yourself, the beautiful thing about the city, it's a cultural melting pot. You have people from so many aspects and backgrounds of all walks of life and everything. So myself and every other Angelino or any other person that comes into LA, we're very fortunate to be a part of something like that. Now, every time my family and I, or we go somewhere outside of the city, outside of the state, that's where we feel that cultural distinction there. Mm-hmm. So the most recent example I can think of is last year during the pandemic, 4th of July weekend, headed up to rural side of state of Washington. Nothing but white people. White folks. And so, a lot of white folks there. And, it was a bit of a culture shock on our end and their end, because it's just like they don't really see a lot of Latinos up there. And, for us, we're just like so kind of disenfranchised by so many like conservative flags, so many Trump flags, so many everything like this. We're just like, man, we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So when you go outside in that aspect and everything, you do want to be proud, not only a proud person, but a proud Latino as well, because you are there representing yourself and your culture as well. So I think anywhere you go, especially now that I've gotten older, I've really learned to embrace being not only just a person, not only just a male, but as a male Latino figure in this world. So.
Yeah, I like that. Folks, Josh would never hurt me with his big fists. So leave it. You would never hurt me.
Peace and love. Peace and love. Peace and love.
Exactly. Always. We always got along. You would never hurt me. That's right. I do sometimes feel responsibility to represent when I go places like you. Yeah, when you're like the one and only or few. Kind of like, okay, they're all gonna be watching to see what I'm gonna do, kind of. And whatever I do in some form, like it or not, will inform them about the whole race or whole culture or whole, it just happens. I mean, it's just what kind of happens. Cesar R Espino, so you have a different experience because you weren't born here, and you live somewhere else, but and you're here. So how do you feel about being Latino in America?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty interesting question, and I think it comes down to the different perspectives of where you came from and how was your upbringing. For me, it was definitely a little bit more different because I did feel out of place, right? Coming here, not knowing the language, not knowing the culture. To me, to an extent, it was a culture shock, right? Being in Mexico, all you see is like Latinos, Mexicanos, right? Coming here is like, now I see, all these different nationalities and different language, and I couldn't really be able to communicate with them. And so that made it difficult for me growing up as a kid. I felt like there was, to an extent, some sort of, segregation and discrimination. I'd been able to communicate, and even that as a kid, getting into so many different fights and just trying to fit in a place that I didn't fit in, right? And I remember this story very vividly, telling my dad when I just came here, my stepdad, I had came here, and then within a year being here, I told my dad, I don't belong here, send me back. I don't want to be here. And that was a lesson that I've learned even through now, is that I was so afraid of being uncomfortable in this great nation because I couldn't speak, I couldn't understand, I didn't have no friends, I didn't know anyone, that I was okay going back to Mexico being poor. As you know my story, I had to work as a kid. I didn't really have a good upbringing. And so I was afraid of being uncomfortable to be able to go back to what I know to be my reality, to be comfortable. Yet I learned a lesson, and that lesson is you got to be able to surrender. You don't surrender to give up. You surrender to understand. You surrender to be able to evaluate what is in front of you. And then from that point forward, you can create something better and bigger. And so as I go through my journey of, understanding and being part of this community, or this being in Los Angeles, I got the opportunity to know more of the cultures, different people, different nationalities. And I think it has been a blessing being a Hispanic, being a Latino, because again, you should never forget where you came from. Yet you're gonna be able to represent and take it to the next level. So it's definitely been a pretty interesting journey. Yet you can never forget where you came from, right? So that's kind of like, I guess, my message for that.
That's good. I want to ask Josh and George, do you get offended when people think you're just Mexican? Because you mentioned being in LA, everyone assumes everyone in LA is Mexican. So, and when you go to the East Coast, it's very different. They assume you're either Dominican, Puerto Rican. They always kind of, but in LA especially, it's like, so you're Mexican, right? I mean, so I wonder if both of you guys, can you answer that? Is that something that hits you?
I wouldn't necessarily say offensive, but it's just more just like, well, kind of have to shoulder shrug it a little bit, because part of it just comes from ignorance. Like, not a lot of people knowing all different cultures and countries in Latino America. Like, it does, like, it's just baffling for me to tell how many times I can recount where I say, hey, my family's from Guatemala. I can't even count on my hands on my fingers anymore, because they're just, most of the time it's just like, oh, where's that? I'm just like, got it. Our school system has failed us once again. But it doesn't really take offense to me as much as it used to when I was younger. When I was younger, I just always got infuriated, because just like, come on, like, not all of us look alike. Yes, same skin tone, same everything. Yeah, granted, you want to be, kind of a dickhead about that, sure. But as I've gotten older, it's just, instead of being angry at the person, I just find myself more educating them about it. So it's like, hey, I know you may mistake me for just being Mexican, but I'm actually this is where it's at, this is how we are, and this is how, even though we are similar, there are some cultural nuances that make us a little bit different than everything. Just like certain words, some words that Mexicans say are a lot different than what Guatemalans say. So I mean, I can recount so many times that AfterBuzz, myself, George, and Leslie talking about certain words. It's just like, wait, what do you say over here? Oh, we say this over here. Oh, right. Okay, so where do we go from here? So it's just, I wouldn't really get offensive nowadays. It's just more, I just find myself now as an adult just informing more than anything. So
just to kind of piggyback on what Josh is saying, and just to kind of, because I know they can relate to what I'm about to say, it does come back to ignorance, because it's the same thing that when we say like, oh yeah, man, we're a big wrestling fan, and then they go like, wait, why do you watch it? It's fake, right? And I'm just like, you are so ignorant, like you have no idea. And it just, I don't get mad. It's just like I don't know, it just kind of, and I kind of see where they're coming from with whatever it is that they say, whether it's the Mexican comment or the pro wrestling comment, because sometimes they're just set in their own ways, and God bless them, there's no helping them maybe ever. But other times it's like, when you have the opportunity to kind of educate them on what they're saying, like, okay, like now this is maybe can be a learning moment for them to say like, no, there's more than one, like, oh, well, you speak Spanish. I'm like, have you ever heard a guy from the South talk to like a guy from like New York? It's all English, but God knows that I'm sure you put them in a room together, like there's a lot of stuff that they are not going to understand when when they talk to each other. And it's the same for Spanish. So yeah, but I would never say I got offended, but it's more like, okay, like, again, it just kind of depends on where they're coming from.
Well, we're 5 representations of Latino. I mean, we're 5 of us. We don't all look alike. I mean, we know you guys are not my twins. Even though people thought Cesar was black on our book that we did together. I said, "You're not a black guy." I'm like, he's not black. But not offensive. You weren't offended, right? They're just like, you're just dark in that picture. But we're 5 representations of it right here. Just like, so you can look like us. And there are others who are blonde hair, blue eyed, red hair. I mean, like it's all. I mean, super black. I mean, like all kind of stuff that go on. All over the Latino American community. It's all over the place. So, but I want to ask. I'm gonna get to Leslie with a question in a second. But I want to ask George and Cesar, because 3 of us have kids, and you and me, Cesar, have grandchildren. So I want to ask you guys: is it important for your kids? I mean, are you passing on stuff to them? It's like speaking Spanish. And do they speak Spanish? Well, I know George, your kid's young, right? I mean, I don't know if they understand Spanish or not. So 5. So does Spanish important for you for them, or is it just, or does it matter?
It is, but I haven't made that much of an effort to kind of get there. I mean, I will. It hasn't really. We're still trying to perfect English first.
Okay.
but I know there's other ways. Like, yeah, I know there's different ways to kind of introduce that. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely for me, definitely it has, and it was specifically my daughter growing up, with her grandparents from both sides. It was just it had to be right. There was no other option, and even that there has been a cross-functional, I guess, aspect of cultures because her mom is from El Salvador, I'm from Mexico, right? And so even my daughter being able to understand, the different cultures, the different types of foods, the different words too, and so that's where you get all that, functional aspects of the different cultures, and you just kind of bring them together, right? My grandkid, though, on the other hand, I'm trying to get that kid to learn Spanish, and he's like only English, right? And so it's like I think it's the different generations too from that perspective.
Yes, and your grandson has a cool name, so I want to know both. I want to know both Spanish and English. Come on.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
I did a disservice. One of my daughters knows more Spanish than the other, but I did a disservice. So I was actually at a time where I was told, and this is just what I mean. This is crazy. I mean, I'm a little older than all of you, but I was told you're already Black. Don't add anything else onto you. It was just like just speak English. Just be just do the best you can. That. But then in the late 80s, it started happening where if you spoke Spanish, especially either in New York or in LA, you got paid more money. So you get a higher 50%, 20% higher pay. So I was smart. I was like, yes, I speak Spanish and I know my palabras, and I was like, work it out. So I got paid more money. And so my friends. And so it's kind of like, and it was really funny because I was being told by the Black side of my family, you have to just be focusing on, just make sure you focus on that. Yet my abuelita in New York was like, no, you are this and you speak Spanish. So it's kind of like this whole, it was mixed up. It was like, for me, it was just always mixed up, but that was the time period. And I have friends who are Mexican or Central American who don't speak any Spanish. Their parents do, but they don't.
I also believe that you have more opportunities too, right? When you're able to speak more than one language, not only in the U.S., like you can penetrate other markets, right? And depend on what you're doing, right? But for me, doing my books and my podcast, I'm doing podcasts and it's been heard in all Central America, South America. My books have been hitting some of the Latin American countries, which is pretty awesome. And then even thinking about that, if you wanted to go and travel to like any place in the Latin American countries, like the fact that you can speak Spanish, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong for all of us, but I believe that the fact that you can speak Spanish, you can probably get away with more in terms of what you're paying versus, hey, he's an American, let me just, charge him more or whatever the case may be. Take advantage of that from that perspective.
Yes. Leslie, okay. So I want to ask you, as a Latina, you know the stereotypes. Firecracker, fiery, sassy, all that kind of stuff. Is it true? Is it not true? What do you think about that, girl?
It's kind of hard for you to ask me that question because I feel like I fall into that category. But you can ask Josh, you can ask George, especially I was always around the guys in wrestling. I never shut my mouth, especially if one of them was trying to come at me. So everyone in Spanish would call me, she's like, chiquita pero picosa, because I would always I'm little, but I'm feisty. So yes and no. I think it depends on the way it's portrayed. Like obviously in movies, it's exaggerated. But then there's a lot of Latina women who aren't sassy, who aren't feisty. No, I don't think it's a good stereotype. At the same time, it's a bad stereotype because I feel like people can look at Latina women and be like, oh, she's feisty, or nobody's gonna be able to talk to her because I don't know. It's kind of hard because I'm kind of in the middle, but it exists, but it doesn't.
We followed up because the question I want to ask you is about the wrestling thing, because you're in this wrestling world, very male dominated. There are female wrestlers. There are I don't know this. Are there any Latina wrestlers?
There is. I think in wrestling, it's really hard to get over. Right now, we're first working on. There's female wrestlers, and that's okay, and we can do the same thing as the men can do. And on top of that, adding the culture layer is another thing that I feel like we're seeing now. For example, in NXT, now there's a woman who speaks, she's Mexican American, and she's starting to say Spanish words in her promos, which is something like I didn't ever see at all, like on WWE. You did, but it was more of like very stereotypical, like very stereotypical. Like I remember the Beltons would come out with like a red dress and like a red rose on their head, and I'm like, that's like very like stereotype, because you know, Latina women red and roses for some reason. So I feel like in wrestling we're still working on, like, we've gotten far in regards to like the women's evolution and being accepted as a woman. Now it's like the evolution of like the cultures, I guess you can say, of like being accepted in regards to being Mexican American and kind of having someone that you can relate to the most, because you don't really see that still. Obviously the number one person that comes to my mind is like Rey Mysterio, who like I could always relate to in regards to like being Mexican, being Mexican American, and representing like not only Mexico but San Diego, which is where I'm from.
All right.
So aside from that, yeah, I feel like we're still working that in regards to the wrestling world.
Yeah, because I don't know enough, obviously. Hayward Wong says you're La Profesora, of course.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I love that. Está bien. I was going to ask you three, because you guys are wrestling fans. I mean, especially I know George. I just wonder. I mean, you always hear about the La Luchadors and all that kind of stuff, and Lucha Libre and all that kind of stuff. But in just regular wrestling, mainstream American wrestling, or whatever, are there other Latino wrestlers, and are they stereotypical, or are they? I mean, what are they?
Going back to the stereotypes, I know George will remember this one. George, you remember the Mexicools?
I thought they were hilarious.
I mean, I'll say this. As a kid watching the Mexicools, I thought it was the funniest thing ever growing up, and looking at it back now, I'm just like, oh shit, this is fucking racist as hell. It's just like, you don't know any better. Just like the fact of just going back to the whole representation thing. You see someone that looks like you on TV, you're just like, oh, that is super cool. Look what they're doing and everything. And then kind of you look back on it and go, ooh, that's kind of how away from that. But I think, like, piggybacking on what Leslie said, you know, a lot of wrestling organizations are doing a better job as far as representation, not just as putting as a massive stereotype out there, but actually letting them be the actual performers themselves and using their actual personalities to be that person, instead of just being over I guess just a really big stereotype in your face. It's just more of the person now and their personalities as far as their gimmicks go.
And George, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I've never really been too sensitive about that stuff. I know people can be, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because even back in like the mid to late 90s, like, American wrestling was introduced to this whole new style of lucha libre that nobody's ever seen before in the US, and people loved it. It didn't matter if these guys spoke English or Spanish, or didn't speak English, or only spoke Spanish, but as long as they kind of delivered in the ring, like, that's what mattered. Like, a lot of people remember like guys like La Parca, Super Calo, Juventud Guerrera, you know, there's so many sequel plays, Psychosis, like Rey Mysterio Jr., of course. And like, it didn't really matter. Like, I don't think people ever looked at them and said like, oh, well, they're Mexican, so I'm not going to root for them. Like, people don't really look at it like that. It just, I think what makes pro wrestling, and I'm sure there's other entertainment fields that are like this as well, but I always thought kind of in pro wrestling, it's kind of that you can go there, but you also don't have to go there, because it can be, if it's written the right way, it can be successful. Right. Thankfully, we never really saw that. I mean, we've seen a little bit of that in maybe the Black culture, but we never really saw too much of that in the Latin culture. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if that, maybe somebody can look at it and says like, oh, well, because they never have, you know, Latin Americans, you know, on a certain pedestal in pro wrestling, and maybe it should be. But again, I think it's okay. You know, I think other ethnicities that maybe have been portrayed a lot worse than Latin American pro wrestling. Yeah. So it's nothing to complain about. But yeah, I think and Leslie knows, and Josh knows as well, it's still very important that, and I think the company, the WWE, also thinks of it as like, we need to have a strong representation on one of our programs, which is why we see Rey Mysterio still being very relative or important, have an important role in the WWE. And they tried before with other guys, you know, Alberto Del Rio, Humberto Carrillo, like Kalisto, like, and maybe it didn't really quite work out. Yeah, maybe it really didn't quite work out, whether it's politics, maybe it's non-political. But I still feel like they always make an effort to have somebody there.
Yeah.
Hayward Wong asked, this is kind of a related question. One of the girls from My Young and the Restless, Sasha Kaye, is going to be Supergirl for DC or whatever. That's the latest thing.
Nice.
Do you guys think America's ready for that?
Yeah. For a Latino, Latinx, Latina superhero?
Take over a traditionally white, because they didn't make a black Supergirl or a black Superman. I mean, this is Latino, doing Latina first. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm just curious. Well, they kind of had a black Spider-Man, kind of, in that Spider-Verse thing.
I mean, rumor has it we're gonna have a black James Bond too.
Yeah, black James Bond, black Superman. Yeah,
I've heard that. We hasn't happened yet, but this one has been cast. So I was wondering, especially for you, Leslie, are we ready for that?
I mean, I think it's good. I just feel like there's always going to be critics. There's always going to be people who are not going to like change. I think we've gotten to a point, definitely here in America, that we're accepting change, we're accepting diversity, and it's good. But I know that there's always going to be a certain group of people who are always criticizing and saying, no, this isn't okay. This is how it's always been. Why are you changing it? But of course, I always like, especially for Latinos to be represented, it means everything to me. So yeah, I'm really excited about this.
And kind of going back on what you were saying, like there's always going to be critics no matter what. I'm sure there's a large portion of Hispanic people that are saying like, why do they have to portray a Supergirl? Why can't they be their own Latin superhero? You know what I mean? No matter what, there's always going to be detractors. But we can't focus on that. Like you have to see like, you know what, let's tell the story. Let's see what the best thing for the story is and go from there and trust your instinct and trust your gut and see how far you can go. Because yeah, I'm sure even with like the black Spider-Man, or even though, was he black or Hispanic? I
think he was mixed. Black and Puerto Rican.
Yeah, he was mixed, right?
Latino, it was me.
Yeah, and I'm sure like, and I'm sure a lot of people were like, oh wait, what? They're gonna have that, but I mean, Spider-Man Into the Verse was phenomenal, and it didn't matter if he was black, Puerto Rican, Asian, whatever. Like it fit the story of what they were trying to tell, and that's what's important.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that kind of leads me into media and entertainment, and all five of us are in it in some form or another, whether it's full-time, part-time, side time, half-time, part-time, whatever. We're all in it. And so, it's funny because you guys bring up a good point of the whole thing, like, why don't we have our own? I mean, yes, there's a Jane the Virgin that comes out every once in a while, or an Ugly Betty that comes out every once in a while, and that comes out, but then there's also the remakes of just inserting. They have both of those things, but each of you, like myself, we're all creating content. And I'm gonna start with Cesar because I heard from you for a minute. So Cesar, you and I both, you're out there, Cesar. You're like me. You're out there. That's why we became friends, I think, because you're a Latino who has an accent. Let's call it out as it is. You have an accent, but you always seem to be very confident. And I want to ask you about that. I'm very confident when you're around other. And and that's I mean, I've been the only black person in a room, the only person of color in a place. I mean, I've done that before, and I just pushed through. So I mean, of course I know your story, of course, but just a little bit for you, for other people out there. How do you find the confidence just to say, okay, I am Cesar Espino, this is how I look, this is how I sound, this is where I'm from, I'm going to continue doing stuff?
I mean, I really think that it really comes down to a couple of different elements. Number one, you got to be able to give it all you have, even when you're afraid, right? Again, sometimes we let the fear of the unknown take away the opportunity that's in front of us, right? And so instead of letting that take away that opportunity, if you're afraid, do it being afraid, right? And so I've been very blessed to the point where I've been able to get myself out into different places that I didn't think I would be stepping, a step into that, whether it's a networking event, whether it's, working with these people that have this major masterminds or whatever the case may be. And again, even being the minority in many of those rooms, the point that I'm trying to make is that if you want something as bad as you want to go on and get it, you're going to end up doing whatever you need to do to get that one thing you want, right? In one of my books that I wrote, my subtitle is when you can overcome anything when you're walking with certainty, or you have a definite purpose in your life. And so you have to be able to identify that. And so for me, it was that it's taken me a long time to be able to get there in many different aspects. Number one, I call it, I was going through some dark moments in my life where I had to really identify who am I, what is my true purpose. I call it now my highest intention. And then based on that, like everything else is gonna come, right? I created a very strategic game plan of the things that I want to be able to accomplish, and then just go after it, even if I'm going to fail. I believe that the only failure is not doing anything, right? Just because you failed once and it didn't work out doesn't mean that it's not gonna work out at all. It's okay to not be okay. What is not okay is to give up and fail.
I gotta mention, is we're saying all this, of course, and then earlier this year, you were on a Spanish language dating show.
Yes,
And can you tell me all about that? I watched you every night on the television. Every night.
Yeah.
And tell people what show that was, and a little bit about that, Cesar.
Yeah, no, and again, talking about getting yourself out and just, doing things out of the norm. Like, this was one of those experiences where I'm like, you know what? Like, so what? Like, what am I gonna lose by going to this show? So I went to Miami. It's Enamorándonos USA. It's viewed all over the US and different countries por Unimas or Univision, I guess. And so, so I was in that show. It was pretty interesting, very interesting experience.
They loved you. I watched it. They loved you. The audience loved you.
Yeah, they did. Somebody was asking like, when are you gonna go back? I'm like, I don't know yet. Yeah,
I remember you went on there, and it was out of your comfort zone, and then you went there, and you were in Miami, hello, and then they took care of you, and then you were on this. I was watching you like literally every night on this show. I was like, I know him, and it was a trip. It's very cool that even though you step out and do all these other things in English and stuff, but then the Spanish comes back to you again,
right.
Somehow. It was kind of fun. And Leslie, for you going into the wrestling stuff. Let's watch another show too, Cafe Corn Leslie, but wrestling stuff and AfterBuzz TV. Do you remember? So tell people what I told you, because you told this on another show. I forgot that I said this to you. I was a whirlwind at AfterBuzz. I did 10,000.
Yeah, you came in and everyone was talking to you.
Yeah. I was like, so
you're
you asked me a question.
famous.
I did a few things there. So, you asked me a question. I gave you an answer. So tell me what the question was and the answer.
Well, let me tell you a little bit of like the background and kind of what's going on. I think I was trying to find myself in the media environment. I think I always walked in representing who I was. I always mentioned that I spoke Spanish. I never hid that side of me, but there was no one who could ever relate to me. I think it wasn't until Josh that walked in that I was like, oh my goodness, like I can finally talk to someone who speaks Spanish, who understands like being different, especially in entertainment. And at AfterBuzz, I really couldn't relate to anyone. I didn't really talk to George yet. And I was working as an intern, so I was already like separated and I was already like looked at as different. So I was kind of going through that, but I always knew I wanted to be on camera, but I didn't feel that support yet. I always felt like I was kind of just like the only one that was always working yet, while these other girls who were interns obviously didn't look like me, were getting more opportunities and better opportunities. So it wasn't until, and I was always like one to kind of keep quiet. I never, I guess I was always afraid of speaking up. I was just like, as long as I do my work, I'm at least going to get the acknowledgement of she always did her work. But I knew it wasn't fair for other girls to have these opportunities that why weren't we getting when we're supposedly all like in the same position? We're not, like, there's no higher intern versus lower intern. So yeah, I was kind of like, I wasn't sure if this was for me because of that reason. Like, do I fit in? Even like within the Spanish industry, there's always still like the models, girls who are light skinned, blue eyes, who I obviously don't look like that. So I was just having that trouble. Like, how do I balance all this? And also family. I'm not from LA. I moved from San Diego to LA. So I'm like, how do I balance? Like, family is always big in any Latin culture, and it was always big in my culture and my family. So I'm like, I asked him, like, how do you balance family and your work, especially in entertainment? And you're like, you can't balance it. You just can't. Your family has to understand that when you're at work, you're at work. And then your work will also, like, you'll make time for your family when you can. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. Because I always wanted to have both. I always wanted to balance it out, but you know, that day you told me, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then I always had that in the back of my mind, like, okay, it can still work out, but my family's gonna have to understand that one day. And you told me this, that I can't make it to a birthday party a certain day because I have to do this for work, and it's just, it is what it is. And I'm a people pleaser, so I had like that like problem where I always wanted to like do everything and be there for everyone, but then as I went, like I learned. So yeah, it was just like I was just trying to find myself, especially in an environment where I didn't feel like I was necessarily seen, and I wasn't, not that I wasn't welcomed, but I could definitely tell that I was treated differently.
I'm glad I was nice to you. That's what I count.
Yeah, you were. But yeah, I didn't feel a sense of relief, honestly, till Josh walked in, and then I felt like someone could talk to me and nobody judged me, and I don't know. He just talked to me different since the beginning either way.
Yeah. I just remember the first time I met Leslie, the first question she asked me, do you speak Spanish? I'm like, yeah, I do. She's like, oh my goodness, man. I'm just like, cool.
I was so excited. That shows you though the amount of people that like were there who really like spoke Spanish or even wanted to.
It kind of backing off of Leslie when I first started AfterBuzz, you know, I'm just a kid. They just hired off the street just by happenstance and stuff, you know? So I'm coming in there with no experience whatsoever in entertainment. Like me, myself, I entertainment and podcasting and doing everything that you guys do, respect to you all. It's just not my cup of tea. Yeah, I'll do it every now and again because it was something I learned and it's something I enjoy doing now. But when I first started, I had no fucking clue what the hell I was doing. And so I felt like I had a target on my back because here I am, just like off the street. These guys have been working for such a long time, like months, years, whatever. Whenever AfterBuzz had first started. I don't even know when, to be honest. But you know, kind of coming in and proving just like so much that I had to do because I haven't like sound like a broken record now, but I had no experience. I had to learn from the ground zero. And so I had to learn like that. And not only that, as well as Leslie said, you have to represent yourself because I am here. I walk in, there's no one that looks like me. I'm like a minuscule like amount of Latino there. Sure, they had another producer who was Latino, but I would have never known until you actually told me.
Yeah.
And so, like me, Tony.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, like which one? Okay, yes.
Yeah, I didn't know he was Latino until he asked me. He's like, "Hey, where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Guatemala." He's like, "Oh, I'm Mexican." I'm like, "Really? I thought you were white, dude." And so it's just like, Tony. I forget his last name.
Yeah, Tony Becerra.
Becerra, there you go, Becerra.
I'm friends with them. Yeah,
I have no idea who it is. All right, go on.
He always had my back too. That's the only person that I felt comfortable with too.
And so going back to what Leslie said, it's just like once you have like a good amount of Latinos there, you have a sense of camaraderie there because like not only can, you know, if you want to say something, we can speak it in another language and not feel so ridiculed about it. Because obviously, if you speak Spanish and you're the only one speaking Spanish in a group of people who don't know any Spanish, you kind of feel a little bit alienated and stuff. So having that sense of familiarity with someone else, it really just brings everyone there. And then once J-Lo came in, like I love J-Lo, God bless J-Lo and stuff.
I love her.
And when J-Lo came in, it just added that fuel to the fire of everything. It's like, okay, the Latinos are starting to take over. And then you could tell that the other hosts who were Latino, but weren't like, you know, expressing themselves or being loud and proud about it. At that moment, we knew there was momentum going. And that's when AfterBuzz Latino started. And then that whole like train just started going. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we weren't able to see it succeed as we wanted to. But there were some big plans that we like. In my heart, I knew we were going to go places with it because of the two most influential people for that channel. One, Leslie, because I know she planted that seed originally as an intern, and J-Lo, who was heading the channel at that time as well. So without them, I don't
not that J-Lo, guys.
Yeah.
But the original, you know, J-Lo. That's what I'm talking about. There's only one that matters.
And a little backstory on that too, like no one stepped up, like nobody wanted to do the first show. And once I got that email, like I already had moved back to San Diego. I was like, you know what, screw this. It doesn't matter if I'm driving up once a week to do this show. I'm gonna take this opportunity because this is the one chance, one that I can show like the AfterBuzz audience that there is Latino representation or that we are here. And yes, best believe I was scared to freaking do a show by myself. Nobody else wanted to do the show or could do the show. So I was like, I was really nervous to do a solo show. I was barely starting to do after shows. So be in front of the camera, yeah, I was comfortable with other people. But then having to do one, a show by myself, two, I am Mexican American. Like Spanish it was my first language, but obviously growing up here, then you kind of lose it. And then you're afraid of people making fun of you as like audience members, or if you forget a word. So it was a lot of aspects into that, but I knew that I couldn't say no just because like Cesar said, like, because I was afraid and I wasn't going to show people that, yes, we're here. It didn't matter if I showed one person that, you know, I am a host, I am Mexican American, I can represent you, because there's a lot of people who are in the middle right now who aren't ever Mexican enough, who aren't ever American enough. So I always wanted to be that person that I'm like, yes, I'm alone, but I'm here. So you can relate to me.
Yeah, Josh and I had our Spanish moment. I mean, because when Josh came in, you were very professional. You're very nice.
Yeah.
I can tell you're from Southern California. I could tell you had that look. Like he's from Southern California. And then we spoke Spanish one day after he used to do one of my shows, my break, whatever.
Bold and Breakdown, and then every now and again the Edition Days every now and again.
Today. So then we realized, because I came to AfterBuzz. I'm James Lott Jr. I'm everything. They all made fun of me all the time. I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Black. I speak 3 languages. I mean, I came in there like that. That's how I always walk through life. I'm just very proud of all of it. So they always say, James is everything. He has Chinese godparents. He has this over here. So I was always known for that. So I'm so glad that some of you guys found your footing and there especially. And George, when I ask you, I don't think I already asked you this question maybe last time I was on my show. How long were you at AfterBuzz?
How long was I there?
Yeah.
March 2014. March or April 2014.
You beat me. You beat me by a year. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I got there February 2015.
Yeah, it was already
a long time ago.
I think we were talking about this when I did your show, that I was at the house. At the Encino house, and I would always take sodas. Up until I stopped drinking soda. But yeah, I'd always take like a Coke, a Sprite, I'd literally leave the house with pockets full of sodas.
Yeah, somebody asked me about the popcorn maker. Like, I don't know who has it. I'm sure Kevin has it. I'm sure I went home with him. I don't know. All the popcorn. Oh my goodness. But I was at the house also, so I remember those days. And I was like, so for you hosting, George, I mean, it was I loved being there. I thought it was a great. I mean, I got my start there. I loved it. I was gonna ask you, George, for you. So what? Because now, I mean, you're not hosting any of your own shows right now, or are you?
Not on AfterBuzz, no. I mean, not. I mean, I kind of have my own channel, but I'm not really doing anything on camera.
Okay. So what was hosting for you then? What was just a fun thing to do? Was it something? Do you want to do it?
No, he hated it.
Well, no. I mean, I hated it when I had to do it by myself.
Yeah.
But honestly, it was just fun. Like, it was just fun. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here right now, because, one of the main things, the great things about it is it's such a phenomenal place to like network. And like, I've met like so many people through like AfterBuzz, and it's just like even like what I do on Thursdays with the Eric Bischoff who ran WCW, like that probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the people that I met at AfterBuzz. Me being here wouldn't happen if it wasn't for the people that I met at AfterBuzz. Like, it mostly was a networking. I never had a desire to be like a host, so I wasn't like, not that I didn't take it serious. I took it serious, but I wasn't. I mean, let's be real. There were a lot of people there that like took it really serious, like really, really, really serious. And I would just never want to that.
Yeah. Yep. Seen so many times just people just like, I'm like, respect you, but damn, settle down.
Yeah. Like, and it's like respect to that. But I was never one of those people. Like, again, it was, coincidentally, I never really had a full plate in my personal life to where I was off and on. I was always able to kind of like be there on a regular basis whenever I needed to be when it came to like, for example, even like when we did the Spanish Monday Night Raw show, we did it like at what, Mondays at 10 or Mondays at 11?
We were
like,
the last
Mondays
ones in there at
Mondays at
11.
10.
Yeah, so
Or
it, but
10.
my point is like it never really interfered with like regular stuff. You know, if I had to work during the day, cool, I can go at night. I can start watching wrestling at 8 and to go on at 11, you know, just it was, so I always kind of made it work. And again, it did work. It was fun. I met a lot of great people, and yeah, it was just a great place to network in and really like get comfortable in front of that. Not that I want to be a host, but I do want to do things that involve with me being on camera. And it helped me get comfortable when it came to that as well.
Because you consider yourself a kind of a shy, introverted person, right?
I wouldn't go as far as say introvert myself, but a little shy.
Okay, Cesar, what do you consider yourself? I think you're outgoing. I think you're very outgoing.
Just listening to you guys, this is pretty awesome. No, I mean, you know, no, I was gonna say like I never thought that I would be doing anything like hosting a podcast or doing interviews or things to that nature. And I keep going back to this point. I think it comes back to, at least for me, you know, it keeps coming back to the idea of what is the message I want to do? What is it? What is that purpose? What am I trying to deliver?
Yeah.
Right? And I think through that, many of us, as you know, like whether you're doing music, you're doing books, you're doing whatever you're doing, you're delivering a message to be able to impact somebody else's lives. And for me, that's what it is, right? So when I do my podcast interviews with people, I want to be able to bring different perspectives where people can resonate with that message, and then they can be able to say and see, well, if they're going through this, then I can probably impact my life in that type of form. When people ask me to come into their shows and get interviewed, they want to know about my story. And again, it's like, okay, I'm trying to get that message. And so for me, when I came into the space of this being on TV or being, on camera, was the idea of, if I want to be able to impact that many more people, how can I do that? And so for me, it first started with my podcast, and then it started with me being interviewed on podcasts like your podcast. And I said, well, let me take that idea, and how about if I take that into books now? And so now I'm in the process of doing my 9th book, coming out in about a month or so. And again, being able to go all over the place. And then my good friend James, like, hey, you should do some songs with me. Well, let's do this. I don't have a voice, but I'll try it. And here we go. Now we're doing that, and we're impacting. Again, it's just being able to help somebody in some sort of shape or form. And I think to me, that is the message. It's like, how do you want to leave this world when you do end up leaving? What is that legacy? What is that thing you're leaving behind?
Well, Cesar, you and I started also a little later in life. So we are great examples of that. We're great examples that you can start any time. I mean, that's the whole thing is, you have to do everything by the time you're 21. Like, you have to do everything by the time you're 30. It's like, it's life happens, or as we say, shit happens. And sometimes you gotta get off the hamster wheel for a minute and regroup, and then you can come back on, and it's okay. And you can go full steam ahead. And I think I just turned 52 a few weeks ago, and I'm still doing stuff. I'm like, I'm not going anywhere. You guys got to kick me out. I'm gonna keep going until I can't do it anymore. And I mean, and I hear people tell me, well, you're too old for this. You're too old for that. I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I don't care. I'm going to keep going. And for me, my things are a two-pronged approach. One is I'm representing my cultures, number one, in all my work in some form or another. But also I'm just representing a person in the business. I'm just trying to do whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's being an organizer or writing a book or doing a song, that I'm trying to entertain you. That's my number one thing. I'm trying to entertain. That's like, you talk about people being super serious. I work very hard. I work very hard. But I'm here to entertain. I'm here to maybe give you something maybe you thought of before, or make you laugh, or make you cry, or whatever. That's my job. You have many choices in podcasts. You have many choices in TV shows. You have many choices in hosts. And so I just feel like if you tune into me, hopefully you'll get something out of this, and maybe you'll have we take you away for 20 minutes to an hour of whatever that is. I want to ask you guys a couple of fun.
I want to say something really quickly to that, and you're right. You're never too old or too young to learn. I think we gotta take this mentality of the fact that we are a student of life. we got to be constantly learning in life. And so sometimes like, hey, I got my degree, or I went to college and that's the end of it. I'm just going to go work and do this and do that. I believe that every day that we're in this world, we're learning something. So we got to be a student of life until the very last day of your life, because there's always going to be something that you can learn, right? And so I think that's very critical from that perspective.
Yes, I agree. Okay, some fun questions for each of you. You all get to answer. These are quick little things I'm curious about. Okay. Your favorite drink of your culture?
Tequila.
I think I know Cesar's answer already, so that's tequila, obviously. Anybody else? I want to know from everybody. You have a specialty drink, or just a certain beer, or whatever. Is
it like alcohol or just?
It could be anything. It could be anything. It could be.
Why do you go to alcohol?
Because he said tequila, so. So I'm like, well, is it alcohol? Right.
It could be anything. It could be. It could be.
It can be tap water from Mexico.
Yeah. Good.
That's hard.
I know it's pretty common, but when I would go to Guatemala as a kid, I remember going to the Central Market in the capital, and it's pretty common nowadays, and I've seen it like a lot in Mexico and like other like places like Central American theme and whatnot over the city, is sodas in the little plastic baggies and a little zip tie and straw in it. I love those as a kid. That was like the greatest thing to me as a kid. But as far as just like alcohol and stuff goes, you can't ever go wrong with a Guatemalan lager. It's called Famosa here in the States, but in Guatemala it's called Gallo. There's also Guatemalan rum that's flavored. So there is tamarindo, there is, I believe, coco, and there's like some other flavors too. I think my favorite one personally is just tamarindo and just a straight lace regular one.
Okay, I like that. Okay, we mentioned Inca Cola earlier. That's one of my favorite things. But is there anything that's yours?
Mine has to be okay. This is gonna be weird. You're gonna be like really out of all things, but let me tell you that Mexican Coke versus American Coke is completely different.
Yeah.
It is much better.
They use actual sugar.
Yeah.
Target sells it. I saw it Target the other day, and they have Mexican Coke. It's on a special bottle.
You can find them anywhere. So if you guys are ever looking, they're in a glass, and they're.
Go to Superior, you'll find it there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Northgate.
Yeah.
Northgate.
There you go. Vallarta.
They have a lot of Super King.
Super King as well.
Yeah. Well, besides tequila, I mean, I do like. I used to go to. So I'm from Mexico City, right? So I used to go to El Metro, and then I used to get this licuado de mamey. And so I don't know if you guys know what that is, but I love that, like the way they made it. I was like, that's like my favorite drink. One of the first things that every time I go, I gotta go get that licuado de mamey.
Okay, well, I will say for Peruvian, I like pisco sours.
Very good. Pisco with Sprite is pretty good.
Yeah, pisco good. Pisco punch, pisco sour, anything you get. It's strong, but I like it.
I remember when I was like 20, so it was like a while ago. I had some friends over. We were playing cards. We were playing King's Cup or whatever. We were young, so we were getting drunk off Smirnoff Ices, and we were Smirnoff Ice, and like we were all getting drunk, and then we were like, "What's this?" Like we started going through my mom's cabinet, and we found the bottle of Pisco, and like I never tried it at that time, and they're like, "Dude, let's all try it." And then I tried it, and like I puked it out, and like it was it was not pretty. But this was again mixed up with all the Smirnoff Ices that I had all evening.
Yes, that can happen when you mix your drinks. But I had a pisco sour once at a place called Limon in San Francisco. It was a Peruvian restaurant, and I loved it. I loved the way it looked. I loved the way it tasted. It was good. Okay, the next one is one of your favorite foods of your culture.
Oh, you have to make us pick one.
Pick one. I want to know one that you like. It doesn't mean the favorite, just a favorite that you like. For me, I love my pastelas and tostones. I love those things. It's one of my favorite things. And give me some fried banana. Give me some like stuff. I'm all about that. So you guys go ahead. So go ahead.
I would say I love mole like that. My mom, that's my thing. Like my birthday, like she like makes me mole. Like that's my thing. I love it.
I have to piggyback off of that. because mole is everything to me, but mine, to be specific, coloradito is the best.
Okay. I love it. I'm getting hungry again. George, what is yours?
I mean, you can go to any Peruvian restaurant out here and it's fantastic, it's bomb, whatever, but there's nothing like having it like in Peru, because like there's something just about like any meat that they have. It's just so authentic. And honestly, like just walking down like the barrio like in Peru and just having like just some like kebabs. I know it's called something else in Peru, but like the kebabs, but like I mean, I think it's like cow heart, whatever. But like just the way they season it, like just the old school, just on a cart selling the kebabs by the stick, like just with a nice fresh Inca Cola, and with the bag of some morocha cookies is like the bomb.
Now, George, I want to ask you: are there a lot of llamas down here?
I haven't seen any, but my family's from like the city,
Okay.
so but I know like there's a lot of like, you know, more traditional, more ancient kind of realms, I guess you can say. That I think llamas are very pretty much all over.
Yeah, I heard. And okay, Guapo Josh, what Guatemalan cuisine do you like?
Listen, as a fat boy, you're doing a disservice to me to just picking one thing. This is super hard. How dare you, James? How dare you? Oh my goodness. I guess fuck, I gotta go for shit. I gotta go for a 5-way tie here. I guess number one for me would just be the Guatemalan style tamales. I love them so much. Even though a lot of people hate them because of the texture or it's slimy, it's squishy, whatever you want to say, I love it. It's been a staple of like tradition for like Christmas and New Year's for years for me. Second place would be this awesome stew called revolcado. It is basically a stew with organ meats in it. It is really tasty. I love it, especially when my grandma, God rest her soul, she made it when I was a kid. It was delicious. Guatemalan Tostadas, which is just basically a tostada, which is beans, a little bit of cotija, or you can go with a little bit of tomatillo salsa on it and cotija or guacamole salsa. That's just simple, but it just makes me think of just me growing up and everything. I know I said 5, but I'll just stop at the 3 because I can fucking go on for years.
Well, I will add to it. I love sancocho, which is my favorite stew.
Oh, sancocho is really good.
It's so, oh my God. I eat it all the time when I'm back there. So it has everything in it. It's so good.
I'll say this, it's super tough finding authentic and great Guatemalan food here because normally everywhere you see is a lot of Mexican and Salvadorian restaurants. So you really have to find like those little places that serve really great. I know they have the panaderias here around in LA, Guatemalan bakeries and everything. It's okay, but then I guess the best one where I can consider it just like actual like family cookout type of thing is on 6th and Union. It's this place called Atitlan, which is really good.
Okay. I was just actually near there today. It's so funny. I was just near there. Okay.
I don't know, but this is really bad. Like I'm getting hungry and I want to go get a couple of drinks now.
That was my whole point. I know it's like too late to eat right now. It's like late to eat.
It is never too late to eat.
I love it. What is your most used word in Spanish? You say
no.
No. Yes. Is there a word that you just go to that you say a lot? I mean, is there a word you say a lot in Spanish? I say interesante all the time. I'm always saying that's very interesante. I say it all. You know what I say it all the time. That's interesante. That's very interesante. I say it shady. I say it normal. I say it all kind of ways. That's my most used word. But do you have any words that you say you just kind of always say?
Yeah, usually when I get mad or anywhere, if I'm at work or doing something and I mess up somehow, I just usually either I'll say it out loud or if I'm like working at the school and everything, I'll try to whisper it as best as I can. But obviously, some of the Spanish-speaking kids will hear it. I'll sometimes go mierda if something goes wrong and everything. So because I don't want to say outright, oh shit. So I just like mierda, fuck, and just it goes off that. You know, funny story. I've been caught saying a couple times in front of the kids. He's like, oh, "Did you just say what I think you just said?" I was like, "Oh, no. I just kind of mumbled something. You're good. And she's like, "Oh my goodness, you said a Spanish bad word." I'm like, "No, I didn't. No, you did."
Bad words.
Yeah. Whoops. Well,
Leslie, is there a word? Is there a word you say?
I'm trying to think. I'm like, I don't know.
George,
what am I constantly
any word?
saying?
I don't think so. Like I'm trying to think as well. Nothing really comes to my mind.
Mine either. That's a hard question.
I think the only for me, maybe I'm like every now and then I'm like chales. Like I'll just say that I don't know, like chales, like a freaking Mexican thing, right? Del DF.
Yeah,
Del DF, right? Del DF, like chales or like pues sí. And I don't know. That's me.
Pues sí. I say no manches.
No manches. That one. You know what? I say that too. That's right too.
Yeah.
I want to. So I have a couple of, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. Okay,
Yeah.
I just very. So you never asked that question before. Now you one day you'll be like, I do say this word a lot. You'll be something.
Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, what is do each of you have a group that sings in Spanish or a person in Spanish that you like? I think I already know Leslie's, of course. But I was the rest of you. I'm curious. Yeah, do you listen to Spanish music at all? I mean, it's one of the. I know Josh is such a. We talk about that, but I don't know about George and Cesar.
Well, it's not Bad Bunny.
See, I knew that.
He's always saying that because of me. That's the only reason he's saying that.
He's gonna say that. Yeah. Oh my God. So Leslie, you like Bad Bunny? Yes.
I do, but that's not the only thing I listen to. It's funny because in Spanish I can listen to a whole bunch of different kinds, but I'm very into regional Mexican music, so I'm super into that. Right now it has to be Grupo Firme. They've been blowing it. So Grupo Firme and reggaeton, I guess. Yeah, Bad Bunny.
She's gonna be at the Cali Bash in January.
Yes, so I actually just saw
just so you know, it's right around. It's just around the corner for my birthday. So like, I'm taking presents.
Yeah, night one.
Yeah, it's 3 nights. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, 3 nights. I chose 9-1, which is like Wisin y Yandel, Ozuna, and Mike Towers. I love Mike Towers, but I've always wanted to see Wisin y Yandel in concert. So I'm like, yeah.
My sisters have seen them twice. They say it's a really good show to go see.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The true story. The last time I went for a Cali Bash, like a couple of years back, I was so wasted that I don't remember the show, but it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was, and it was for my birthday. I was having a great time. You know, I mean.
Yeah.
Now, Josh, we did a show already a little bit about this kind of stuff. So I mean, so for a few other folks out there who didn't see our show, what are some you like?
Some of the things I'm listening to right now, actually, since my sister graduated from CSUN last week, we had mariachis play.
To her.
And so, like, I've been listening to Ramon Ayala, I've been listening to Vicente Fernandez, Pedro Infante. I was listening to my favorite, like, one of my favorite all-time artists of all time is actually a cumbia artist by the name of Aniceto Molina. My favorite, one of my favorite musicians of all time. He is just like, if it's okay. Funny thing, my favorite band of all time, Bad Brains, favorite musician, Aniceto Molina. So you can see the spectrum between those two genres right there. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously being from LA, so a lot of Latin ska, a lot of Latin rock, Spanish rock, you know, all of that stuff. So I never discriminate. If it sounds good to me here, I like it.
You know, we had this talk. I'm the same way. So I like LA and Manan and all those. I mean, those are my So now George, I don't know what kind of music you listen to. What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to everything. I mean, but as far as Latin goes, by the way, I want to be on one of your music shows.
We'll make that happen.
It can be like a guilty pleasures, because trust me, I got the worst guilty, or maybe even the best guilty pleasure of everybody that you'll ever meet.
You know I'm a doer, so okay, I can write it down right now. Okay, guilty.
That's as far as Espanol, I was always like that song "Mi Niña Bonita" by Chino y Nacho.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good one.
That was the hit.
That's always been my jam. I don't know. I mean, I kind of keep it simple. You know, the No Mames by Mark Anthony. But the slow version, I don't like that fast paced version. Yeah, I've never been a big fan. Yeah, I mean, just the simple stuff.
What kind of music do you listen to otherwise? I'm just curious.
I mean, overall, like, I mean, I'm like I'm an 80s and 90s kid, so I mean, like 90s is my jam, like 2000s. Like, I don't want to be one of those people that like thinks that, oh, today's music is trash, but let's be real, today's music is trash. Although that Olivia Rodrigo's got some jams, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my god.
Olivia Rodrigo.
Driver's license.
Deja Vu is a good song.
I mean, I like Becky G or whatever. I like her.
She's got some jams.
She has some good stuff. Okay, so this was so much fun, you guys. Thanks for doing this with me. I admire all four of you, and you guys are my friends, and so I'm glad you guys decided to come on and be Latino with me tonight. I'm just thank you so much for doing this. I'm looking forward. This was a lot of fun. I was looking forward to this. And folks, check these people out. I mean, just like these are folks who are doing things out there. Be nice to them. Be kind. Rewind. I'm going to start with Leslie because she is the lady of the group. Where can they find you and your show, Cafe con Leslie?
Yeah, you can find me on all social media at Leslie Colon _ and my channel, youtube.com/Leslie Colon. And that's what I do, Cafe con Leslie, where I pretty much just conversate about anything. And I've kind of been on a little hiatus recently just because kind of life happened. So what you and Cesar said really got to me, like, it's okay for things to stop and then come back into it. So it's coming back. Just life happens. But yeah, definitely follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Leslie Colon _
Yes, I mean, no, it is, and like I said earlier, it's okay to get off the wheel for a second, take care of some stuff. When you're ready, it'll still be here for you.
Right.
And maybe one day you'll have me on your show, maybe one day.
Yes, I know. I need to make it happen. You're gonna be my first person back. Don't worry.
Okay. And then Cesar too wants to be on there. Cesar wants to be on there too.
Yes, I know. I'm so glad we met through here.
Yes. Connect on social media. And well, Cesar, tell me they can find you and all your goodness.
Yeah, you can find me by my name, Cesar R Espino. Actually, that's my website, cesarrespino.com. I don't know how much Spanglish. But yeah, all social media, or like James Lott Jr. I'm also, although I'm not as famous as James, and you can just Google my name and then you'll find all my music, my books, all my social media, all that stuff. Yeah.
And make sure it's Cesar R Espino. There's a Cesar Espino. It's not him.
Yeah, there's a Cesar Espino in San Diego over there with where you're from, Leslie.
Yes,
but that's not me. Cesar R Espino with an R. Yeah.
Yes, with an R. Yes.
San Diego Caesar is a phony. We want the real Caesar, and that's Cesar R Espino.
Yes.
That's right. And the guy talking who used to be in the booth, tell them where they can find you.
Oh, yes.
That's weird not being in the booth anymore,
I know.
right?
I miss you in the booth.
There's a whole life beyond that closet now, so I'm glad to be out of it. You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at JOAL323. Find me doing music stuff. Find me doing martial arts stuff, graphic design, a bunch of random shenanigans. I don't know. Just go ahead and follow me for any of that.
Love shenanigans. I love shenanigans. And George Hermoza, where can they find you on the medias?
You can follow me at Hermoza, GHERMOZA on Instagram, Twitter. You can follow my wrestling YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Wrestling Chatter.
Yes, please go follow that. And you know where you can find me? We're all James Lott Jr. is sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. I've said that for 7 years. I'm like, keep saying that. And I stole it from somebody, so she let me have it. So I'm going to continue saying it because I'm still sold. For James Lott Jr. And JLJ Media, of course, is on JLJ Media. It's my channel. I'm on all streaming service platforms, and I do have Spanish songs out. So I'm going to check those out. Go to any Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google, and just type in either No Jugando Aquí or Lo Mismo es Lo Mismo or Bailarlo or La Semana. Those are all my Spanish songs. 2 of them were Cesar. 2 of them I'm working on a Spanish album as we speak. To come out later this year. Yes, it's coming out this week called Siempre Jaime. It'll be coming out later this year.
Yes.
This is Jaime, always. I might add Tio Jaime in there now because of you, Josh. Who knows?
Tio Jaime.
So that'll be out later this year. I've been recording songs for that. But more, and I have some Spanish language content on my channel too. You can check that also. But everyone, please be proud of who you are, whoever you are. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
Walk in that. I have no problem with that. Just walk in that, live in that. It's okay. Whatever you decide to be, however you decide to be, it's yours. And so don't let anybody tell you differently. And we'll see you next time.